Hello, everyone, and welcome to Events. So, how this works, this is kind of a companion thing to the DOM. So, to review, we've got this tree of DOM nodes. And hopefully, folks are getting a little more confident with creating these, building them out, appending them, that kind of thing. So it's still static. It still just kind of sits there unless we script it all out or something like that, right? We want this to be able to respond to user interactions. So if one of these is a button, and you click on it, we want to be able to do something in response to that action. Here's what that looks like. So if I make an events practice thing, and I make a HTML and a JavaScript file, and I'm going to borrow from this. Good. Okay, so let's put a button on the page. All right, there's our HTML. If over here I say grab that button, then I can listen for an event to occur on that. So clicking on it, double clicking on it, hovering over it, all those are user interactions, and they fire off events. So I could say button.add event listener, tell it which event I want to listen for, like click, and then give it a function that I want to execute every time that happens. So to start with, I'm just going to log. The button got clicked. So if I serve this up, I get something kind of like that. And moment of truth, when I click this button, a function fired. Let me get that, keep that server running. Not lighter server. Light server. So if I have a variable in here, like my name, guess what? That event listener also has access to that. So I can click on that and see some variable that's in JavaScript. I could make this double click instead. I believe is DBL click. So now if I click on it, nothing happens because that's not the event. If I double click on it, then that fires. Want to know what's extra wild about this? Doesn't need to be a button. If that's just a paragraph tag, works the exact same way. Click, 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 nothing, double click. Oops, should have. Oh, it's because I'm not selecting the element anymore. So if I do that, click, 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 double click. Make that click. Click, 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 click. That's events. Ask me some questions about it.
So one of the things I noticed that go add event exercise. Is there an easier way to figure out what we actually can do to these things? Because I got it to spin like you had in your example. I know it was one, and then I figured out how to move it to the left and double click. But the hard part for me about that one was just what can I actually do with this? Because it wouldn't like autofill and a heck of a time finding it online.
Like which events?
Yeah, like
sure.
You have spin, you move it left or right. I put bounce, but that didn't seem to do anything. Even though that was one.
All those are just CSS animations. That doesn't have anything to do with events.
Okay.
It doesn't have to be that. I just thought that was a good visual example. But these are, all of that stuff is CSS.
Okay.
As for which events you can listen to, there are a lot of them. So let's see, let's do. So like drag and drop, those are events. Like there's a drag event and a drop event that you can respond to. Or, hey, there's a gamepad API. So if you have a gamepad hooked up to your computer, you can like listen for the X button being pressed and then do something in response to that. Or you can find out when somebody presses the enter key on their keyboard. You can listen for that key event. Or when a particular piece of media starts playing or is stopped, you can listen to that event. Or, let's see. Here we go. Here's a bunch of events. So like key down. If I listen for key down on the entire document, you can also, let's see, a key was pressed. And every time that I press a key on the keyboard, watch what happens. So I'm over here. I just pressed the A key. Oops. Didn't I? Isn't that so? That should have fired. Let's see what it did wrong. It should be there. Let me see if I have to attach it to like a discrete element. I might. I could have sworn that was just on document though. All right. We do document.query selector body. There we go. Okay, so I just pressed the A key, and hey, there it is. So if like this has all kinds of other things that I might use also, but this key right there. If I wanted to know what someone was typing or use that somehow, or like in Slack or in Discord, you can do Control K. So I could have my own Control K listener where I'm listening for if event.key equals K, then let's see, the K key was pressed. Okay, so if I'm over here, I can type and type and type and type and type, and if I press the K key, there it is. And if I want it to only be when I'm also holding down Control, I could say something like, and event.ctrl key. And I've noticed a lot of people doing this. I don't need to say is true. It's already Boolean. So like that's a totally legit Boolean statement all by itself. But now I go over here, slam on that K key, nothing happens. I hold down Control, and there it is. Moving your mouse into something, scrolling. An element losing focus. Use like copy pasting something. All of those are events. There's the paste event. Uploading a file. Submitting a form. All of these are events. And we can listen to them with add event listener and then do anything we can imagine in response.
So, kind of a dumb question, but if you're able to do this add event listeners or certain keys being pressed or certain events taking place, I mean, obviously they show up in your console, but is there a way for you to like load the data somewhere else so you view it later kind of deal? Like,
totally. So I could
capture it.
So if I wanted to, every time somebody typed, I want to keylog them. I'm going to spy on them. Every time somebody presses a key, I could send a fetch request to myevilserver.org and do something like and then event.key. So yeah, now I'm logging everything that somebody types. Or if I want to combine this with the stuff we did yesterday, I could bring that back. I already have the body here. Every time that the Control K key is pressed, I'll just say K. Every time the K key is pressed, make a new element. Set its text content to and then append it to the page. All right, so I'm over here, go there. Oops, it's not P, I called it element. Go over here, I start pressing K. I could make it any key. So like if I'm not checking for just K, this could be you pressed event.key. So now, as I type in here, KYLE, now we're programming the interface. Hopefully like a universe of possibilities just exploded in your head because this is what web development is. I can have as many of these as I want. I'll bring that button back. Now I can add a click listener for that. And maybe what that thing does is take the body and wipe out the text content. So now this says clear. All right, so I go over here and oh wow, hang on, let me turn off my plugins. There we go. Cool. So I have all those things. I want them to go away. I also got rid of my button. I could have made that like document.query selector all. Give me every P. And iterate over them. And then remove them all. Okay, so now I go over here and come on, man. Nope. Off. There we go. So if I go over here and it's Ford, credit, rocks. Now I can get rid of all of them. Wild, right? Ask me some questions about that. That's huge.
Create an event for a specific word.
You could. So like, let's say I was doing, like instead of this, it was like, maybe I have a code up here, initializing it to an empty string. And then I maybe have like if event.key is D, then code equals D. And then if it's D and code is D, then code is DD. I need to reverse those. And then if event.key is F and the code is DD, then the code is DDF, and then if it's DDF, and then lastly, if the class code is I and it's this, then you've entered DDFFI and you entered the stage select code for Bubble Bobble, an NES game I played as a kid. DDFFI. So I go over here, I'm in the browser, DD, oop, come on, man. This Vim Vixen plugin keeps turning back on. Believe it or not, that really doesn't want you to use your keyboard for stuff. That's why you can turn it off. So like on things that use keyboard input, for example, Gmail, you can disable it. There we go. Localhost 3001, turn off Vim Vixen, and I do D, D, F, F, I. Oh, maybe. I assume that like I got the logic on this right. So what if I also log these? So if you pressed D and the code is code. All right, so I'll give myself these. Okay, let's see if it'll let me do it now. Vim Vixen on? Yep. Okay. Oop, didn't get my F though. Weird. I don't know why I'm having a hard time with this. It goes below. Oh, I see. It's because this needs to be empty. Otherwise, it does both of them. That's not what we want. D. God, Vim Vixen. Good gravy. I swear I'm going to have an aneurysm. All right. One last time. For the first time, for the last time. I got this. I swear. I navigated somewhere. All right. D, D, F, F, I, A! Pretty cool, right?
Yeah, I asked because I wonder if Google AdWords works like this, like certain words or certain sequences or search for, then like ad agencies or even just websites in general, just for debugging or working in future projects use this type of stuff, just to gather the data and see what's going on like real time.
So they actually have a better way to do that. So like the thing that I just did is called key logging. That's super inefficient. It's creepy as hell. And so like people react very negatively to it. And Google already has a product that does that. It's called Google Analytics. And so if you want to see what action like people take on your site, what pages they go to, what they search for, like all of that kind of stuff, that's what Google Analytics is. And then it just dumps all of that into like a spreadsheet that you can search and sort and do analysis. It's one of the things that Mrs. Coberly does is Google Analytics analysis.
Thanks, Kyle.
Yeah, no problem. More questions about events. All right, your turn. Let's head on over to Sandbox. And this time I'm going to have you start your own. So go over to Code Sandbox.io. Create a sandbox. And the template you want to use is vanilla. Cool. So what I want you to do is add a button to this page and then add a click listener for it. Do anything. Log something, make an element, have a good time with it. Let's call it 3 minutes for that. Make a button, add a click listener for it, do something with the click listener. Go. All right, so similar to yesterday, let's do a thumb scale. How did that go? Did you get something happening? Throw them up. I'm seeing some thumbs ups. Keep them up. Keep them up. Couple down, couple sideways. Keep them up. Keep them up. Excellent. Thank you. All right, let's walk through it together. So HTML is fine. Oh, we got to add a button. Okay, so we put the button on the screen. We go over the JavaScript file and get rid of all this. And I can select that button. And I can say something like, hello world. And if I clear all that out and save this and click on my button, hello world. Ta-da! Oh, I just realized what my other event listener wasn't working. Window, not document. That's what I wanted. Whatever. Ask me some questions.
I do have one question.
Yeah.
Do we have to? I got it to work. Everything's fine there, but is there a reason we don't have a label function before that arrow?
Like, can we label that
like
like event
or
whatever?
You mean the parameter or the function itself?
No, I'm sorry.
That
Sure.
click.
Yeah, if you're not using it, you don't have to reference it. It gets passed in regardless, but like we're not doing anything with event here, so we don't need it. If I want to use that event, then I need to declare it as a parameter. And now I can log that along with it. I can read stuff about the event. I can see where the XY coordinates of the mouse were when the event occurred. All kinds of like cool things. So if I do that, then come on now. Maybe. There we go. So then I can see all this event stuff. But if I'm not using it, I'm not required to declare it.
Thank you.
More questions about events? What was it?
Are you posting the video of this?
I will. It's still recording as far as I can tell.
Since I just
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, excellent.
Real fast, I had a question.
So
I was able to do an event for my click.
Mm-hmm.
But then
I tried to do something like turn the button red.
Yeah.
And it's giving me an error. I'd be happy
Yeah.
to screen with you.
Show how
How
you
you
do
do something like that.
Yeah, let me see what you got going on.
Excellent. Everyone be able to see everything okay?
I see it. Oh, this is a really good one.
Great.
There's no reason that you would know this, but background is what we call a composite property. It doesn't actually exist. So what you want is like background color. That's the actual property. We can use background in CSS, but I can't use it in JavaScript because it's technically not real. And
So this is.
hold on. Bigger problem is it's not a function, which is what the error says.
Oh, I see.
So
So to get
that
rid of that,
would
would
just
take
the
out the
back
back
row.
arrow?
Nope. It's not a function. It's a
State. No.
property.
So it would be background color.
No, it camel cases. It'd be background dash color in CSS, but in the actual DOM they use the camel casing conventions. But we don't invoke it because it's not a function. What do we do with properties?
Assign the value to property.
Just assign it.
Okay.
So then that would be wrong.
And equal sign.
Take
Ding, 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 ding.
Would disappear as well.
Nope.
And then
Still need the quotes because it's a string.
Right.
All right, now try it.
Let's give it a try.
Hey, very cool. Thank you guys.
Yeah. More questions?
You change the output function on how many times it has been placed. Like one click does something, and then the second click gives it a different value, and the third click does something else.
Totally. So let's see how we would do something like that. All right, I'm going to get rid of all of this. Okay, so all I have is this click listener on here. And I want to have something happen the first time it gets clicked, a different thing happen the second time it gets clicked, so on and so forth. So for us to have any kind of state that exists outside of this function body, it needs to be maintained in another scope. Because as soon as that function finishes firing, everything inside of it disappears. That scope ends. So that means I need to have something out here that's keeping track of that. So that could be something like a counter. And every time this gets clicked, I use my cool scoping rules to do something like counter plus equals 1. And then I could make an element out of that. Oh, actually, no. Yeah, I'm going to show you a couple ways to do it. So I'm going to create an element. And then set its text content to whatever the counter is right now. And append it to the body. All right, so now if I click this, it shouldn't be clear anymore. Click add. So now 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Okay, so I could do something like that. I could change the exact same like element by putting like a container in the HTML. And now, instead of throwing those on the body, dot count, I could put them there. And now, oops, keeps making new ones still. I need to set count.textContent to counter, and 1. So like that's another way we could do this. And I could also make it so that something doesn't happen until it's clicked 3 times. So I could say like if counter is less than 3, or sorry, if counter is greater than 3, then start throwing it on the screen. So every time the event happens, that gets incremented, and it checks to see if it's more than 3. And if it is, then it makes something show up on the page. So I guess it should be 1, 2, 3, 4. That's what I was worried about. Off by 1 errors. Greater than or equal to 3. 1, 2, 3.
So if I wanted to say something like click 1, you click 3 times, you have to have separate statements there for each sentence.
Correct.
Okay.
What else?
With this, do you use the paragraph for
as a substitute button.
it seems like really any
element on the page
be something you interact
with listeners.
Really
Literally anything. Literally anything. Could be an image, could be the entire body of the document, it could be a table, doesn't matter. Like there's a couple of specific ones, like for example, and this is what the section after the DOM intro stuff is forms. So I could have an input here. And then submit button. Oh, actually, I'm going to make this email. Okay, so like this is basically that sign up form from like one of the first unit kind of things. So what I can do is I can listen for that form to be submitted. So I listen for the submit event of the form. I have to prevent the default behavior, otherwise it tries to like not let me handle how the form gets submitted. And if I log, now let's see, if I take the form data out of the event and log form data.get email. Okay, so I put in Kyle@seekaeducation.com. Oops, not form date, come on. All right, so if I do Kyle@seekaeducation.com and I submit it, hey, check it out. I got something that a user entered into a web page, and now I just have it as data. I could save it in a variable or something first. And now that that's connected, I can do anything I want with that email variable. I could send it an HTTP request to like a server where I'm keeping track of everybody's email addresses. Or I can check it against a whole bunch of rules to make sure that it's part of the Seeka Education domain. I could look up somebody's gravatar from it. That's what I do with you guys. So like on the LMS, it has your picture up here in the corner. I got that from GitHub because you log in with GitHub, and then you probably don't remember, but on the first day, you had to say, by the way, seekaeducation.com wants to know your email address. Is that okay? And then you click yes. So now when you log in, seekaeducation.com gets your email address. And then that Gravatar stuff that I had you sign up for on the first day, I go, hey, by the way, what's the email address for kyle.coberly@gmail.com? And it returns back the URL of this image. Ta-da! It's pretty cool. It's like neat stuff you can do here. So I set that up. So this login button, this is probably the most complicated part of the entire application. And luckily, I don't manage any of it. So I used a library called Auth0. But that makes it so that when I go to log in, it checks to see if I'm logged in to GitHub or not. Like all of this, check out the domain. I'm not actually on seekaeducation.com anymore. I'm on Auth0's site. They are checking with GitHub and going, hey, is this person logged into GitHub? If not, tell them to log in. And then when you log into GitHub, GitHub sends a message back to Auth0 and goes, by the way, they logged in, we checked them out, their password's good. And by the way, you said you were doing this on behalf of whom again? And they go, Seeka Education. And they go, awesome. Well, tell Seeka Education that they're authorized to have this person's email, and here it is. And so then when this whole thing finishes, the end result is Auth0 says, by the way, that person, 2 thumbs up, they are who they say they are, and they would like you to know this is their email address. And then I attach your email address to all of the submissions that you make, or when I evaluate something, it's all tied to your email address. Some of you found out when you changed your email address on GitHub, like all of your submissions went away. That's why. I don't maintain like student records for anyone. I attach your email address to everything you do. And so that's how I can filter down just Sharon's stuff, just Bryce's stuff, just Kyle's stuff. More questions?
more comment, seems there's a lot of power, you know, using the DOM, but you can see it's really easy to do some evil when using it for sure.
Yup. Oh, 100%. That's the case with all software. Like, it's not a special web thing, but yeah. All right, one more thing I want to show you. This kind of gives you a hint about where we go really over the course of the program. So, all right, no more form. What if I have a div here with an ID of app. And up here, I have a header with a couple of links. And let's call them A, B, and C. Okay, cool. Nothing up this sleeve, nothing up this sleeve. 3 different links and an empty container below them. So, oh, actually, I'm going to make that A, B, C also. All right, so I can find out like whenever one of those gets clicked. I could say something like document.querySelectorAll, give me every anchor. So that's like A's. I could each through those. By the way, you'll notice this on like older videos, and I'm probably going to start doing it now because this is driving me crazy. I put $signs in front of DOM elements. The dollar signs don't do anything. It just becomes really helpful to know, like, just for yourself when something is a DOM element or not. It's an old-timey thing. It's not very popular anymore, but I don't care. I like it. But yeah, the $sign doesn't do anything special. It's just a little note to myself that I'm working with a DOM element, not a Boolean or a number or something like that. All right, so I go through these. I can come up with a better name than that too. Links. For each link, I want to add an event listener. There's probably like a navigate one or something like that, but I'll just say click. And then I don't want it to actually navigate me. And let's take a look at what kind of stuff they give me. All right, so there's the event. I have a hunch that if I look at the target, it'll give me that href maybe. Yeah. Hash, that's what I want. Event.target.hash. All right, so now when I click on those links, I can tell which one that I'm clicking, right? Not bad. So what if I had an object up here called pages, and maybe I've got an A property that has something like And like these could be pretty complicated things. There's no limit to how much HTML that we can put in there. So it could be another navigation even. Okay, so that's a page, and maybe there's one where we've got a form and a bunch of inputs on it, and then a button. Okay, so it's just an object, 3 properties. Each one of them is just a string of some stuff. We could make it so that every time one of these gets clicked, we throw that in the app container. So what if app was document.querySelector app? Yeah. And anytime this gets clicked, we get some HTML by taking the, let's see, event.target.hash, and then just getting the second character of it. And then looking up pages at key. And then we set app.innerHTML to whatever HTML came back. That's how web apps work. Pretty cool, huh? Questions?
The app had, say, a lot of pages, maybe over 50 to 100 pages. Did you still organize it in like that, or would there come a point where you would organize it a different way?
No, there's no good reason to do it literally the way that I did it. There's way better solutions for that. But that's effectively what's happening regardless.
Multiple script pages or pages and a website. You got multiple emails. And you link the script to HTML. What if some of your code is the same on both pages?
Right.
Apply to both pages?
So yeah, it would have to. So that starts getting into a limitation of like just how the web is designed. So how this worked up until like the modern era is you'd have an index.html and an index.js, and then you'd need separate ones. Same thing with your style sheets for that matter. So then you're like, and then an index.css. And then you would need those for like every page in your thing. You'd have like an about.js and an about.css. So you'd need separate files for all of those. And then like what they would try to do, sometimes successfully, sometimes not, is have like an app.js. This one always loads on every single page, plus that one on that page, or that one on that page. And then do a similar thing with the styles, where like these styles apply on absolutely every page, stuff like the logo and the header bar or whatever else. And then you would add additional CSS files for the individual pages. this sucks. It's very difficult to maintain. And so there are much better solutions to this now that we'll talk about in a couple units. Questions? Cool. Go learn something. Bye.